Thank you, Mr. Eldridge. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the May 5th meeting of the City of Kalamazoo Zoning Board of Appeals, a volunteer advisory board appointed by the City Commission. Tonight's meeting is being held electronically and is being streamed live on the city's Facebook page and YouTube channel. Mr. Eldridge, are there any announcements or changes to the original agenda?
There are no changes to the original agenda for tonight. As far as announcements go, as a reminder to our viewers that have been patiently waiting for this meeting to start, this is being streamed for viewing. There's also the ability to call in and listen to the audio. For those that would like to leave comment for the two public hearings we have tonight, the call-in number is 269-226-6573. Again, 269-226-6573. And that number is also up in the upper left-hand corner of the screen. Please state whether your comments are related to the request for 1401 Harrison, or if your comments for the public hearing you want to speak to is for 2117 Benton Avenue. Those are the two cases that the Zoning Board of Appeals will be discussing and voting on tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Pete. I will now explain our procedure for tonight's public hearing. For each request, the secretary will read the application into the public record. The applicant or the applicant's representative will then have 10 minutes to provide their comments. Following that, public comments received via phone at the number 269-226-6573 will be aired for the panelists and audience. After this, we will close the public hearing on the request. Once the public hearing is closed, the board will then conduct what is called a finding of fact, where the board states what they feel are the facts of the request. The board must approve the finding of fact. Therefore, the first vote you hear is not a ruling on the request, but on the finding of fact. Then the board discusses the request in order to determine a ruling. The board reserves the privilege to ask questions of persons who have already spoken, even though the public comment portion of the hearing is closed. Once discussion is ended, the board will move on to a roll call vote. A full board consists of 6 members, and 4 votes are required to grant a motion for a non-use or a use variance. I'll now ask Christina Doan, the secretary, to read the first application into the record.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. One moment, please. An application for a variance for provisions of the zoning ordinance has been filed with the Zoning Board of Appeals by Graphic Packaging International, LLC, owner of 1401 Harrison Street, which is situated in Zone M2 Manufacturing General District. The applicant is requesting a dimensional variance from Chapter 9, Section 9.3b to increase the height of an existing non-conforming building which encroaches approximately 20 feet into the required 25-foot setback from the Harrison Street right-of-way. The footprint of the building along with Harrison Street will not be altered, and the building will not be located any closer to the front property line. However, the height will be increased from 30 feet to 80 feet, which increases the extent of the non-conformity. Please note this request will not change the zoning classification of the property. This is a request for variance only regarding the item described above.
Thank you. Mr. Miller, the public hearing is now open and you have 10 minutes to present the case.
Hi, good evening. This is Rusty Miller. I'm the Senior Vice President of Engineering for Graphic Packaging International. And our property on 1401 Harrison Street, we will want to raise the roof on the building. This is part of our exciting $600 million expansion that we are building in Kalamazoo. And as mentioned, the footprint doesn't change, but because the building is non-conforming, we are here for a variance, and we will be asking to raise the roof on an existing building, but not to change the footprint. So that's it for my comments.
Mr. Miller, for the benefit of those of us that aren't as familiar with the expansion you're undertaking, could you just give a brief overview of what that is and, sort of your
Yes.
role and place in the Kalamazoo community?
Yes, certainly. Yeah, we are, I used to say probably one of the largest manufacturing employers, in the city. We have a total employment about 700 in Kalamazoo. We have our recycled paperboard facility at 1500 North Pitcher, which houses 2 paper machines, and we make essential food packaging, primarily for dry food products like cereals. We make the paperboard for that. So if you recycle your paper, very likely it comes to us. All the Meyer store paper, corrugated, comes to us to be remade into recycled paperboard packaging. And we make the paperboard in Kalamazoo, and here for well over 100 years doing that. And across the street from us, we have a printing operation that takes our rolls and actually then prints it into the cereal carton. And then they go off by truck to people like Kellogg's in Battle Creek. From what our expansion is we're adding a 3rd paper machine. This will be a world-class paper machine, doubling our capacity and really guaranteeing us another 100 years of success here in Kalamazoo. We'll be providing jobs for many families for the decades to come. So all of that, the paper machine itself is being built on Pitcher Street, where we've already been before you a few months ago to get a variance for a new building. And this facility on Harrison is where we will be processing the old corrugated boxes to turn them into pulp, and then we pump them from this facility over to the new paper machine. But we've been here in the city making paperboard since the turn of the century, and this investment, like I said, will give us another 100 years here of making recycled paperboard.
Mr. Chair. Matt, are you still with us? Okay, Matt's coming back up here.
Was that just me or was that everyone?
That was just you.
Oh,
I'm glad you're back with us.
Sorry.
Yep. So, Mr. Miller.
I had such a good speech. Hopefully you didn't miss it all.
It was very good. So, Mr. Miller, the connection between the new paper press going in the building along Pitcher Street and the building we're talking about tonight is preparation of material that goes into the press?
That's correct. This takes the old corrugated boxes, which we get many from the Meyer stores, actually. So if you go around back of Meyer and you see a truck parked there, we're taking those bales of old corrugated boxes that the food and goods came in. We take them to the plant here and we slush them in a big hydropulper. It's like, putting, like you've done with your kids, if you put paper in a little blender and you turn it into pulp, then it's slurry it down, and then from there we actually pump it from this building that we're going to raise the roof on. We pump it over to the paper machine to be made into new paper again. And so if you recycle those boxes, we'll collect them in the waste stream, and then it'll be recycled again. It's kind of this nice recycling loop that we have. But this facility takes the bales of paper, puts them in water, and slushes them down into a slurry again.
Thank you. Are there any additional questions from anyone? In that
No,
case,
I think it's an excellent opportunity. I mean, it's in the core of an industrial area, and you know, the fact that it's going to be able to call it in surrounding buildings really does enter into a communication.
well, if there are no further questions, I'd like to ask to close this portion of the public hearing and ask for comments either for or against.
And we'll be having IT queue up any public comments received between 6:30 and 7:30. There are actually no comments that have come in. So we don't have any phoned in comments. We do not have any emails or written comments received for this application tonight.
In that case, I will ask for the finding of fact. And Ms. Doan, did you do the finding of fact on this?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
before we do the finding of facts, staff would just like to make a few comments. I'm sorry I didn't jump in a little quicker there.
Oh, yeah.
But I do want to let the board know that, first of all, we have a building that is deemed non-conforming. It's approximately 5 feet from the front property line, where the perimeter setback in this zone, which is general manufacturing M2, is 25 feet currently. I did look back at the age of the building. A portion of it was built in 1950. Another portion of it was built in 1966. So it is an older structure built under a prior zoning ordinance for the city of Kalamazoo that clearly did not entail this 25-foot setback. As far as I can tell, that's been in place since the early 90s, maybe the mid 80s. But the intent behind the 25-foot perimeter setback was because the M2 is the most intensive manufacturing zone district, allowing for low, medium, and high impact industrial uses. The intent was to provide a buffer from adjacent land uses as far as any nuisances like noise, odor, vibration, dust that might be generated by that industrial use. Obviously, what's before us tonight is essentially expensive machinery that cannot be left outdoors. It has to be enclosed within the building. So Graphics Packaging is looking to actually expand the structure that's there, raise the roof from roughly 30 feet now up to 80 feet for that portion of the machinery that needs to be enclosed on that side of the building, which means that the part of the building that's non-conforming essentially has to be reconstructed and then enlarged to house this new equipment. And that's really the essence of the background I wanted to touch on. Secondarily, Harrison Street is a public street. However, it functions more like a private street. That block from Patterson to the wastewater facility, there's only two property owners along it. It's the city of Kalamazoo, the wastewater treatment plant at the north end, the dead end essentially, and then Graphics Packaging owns the property on the east and west side of Harrison Street. So, there is no impacted property owner adjacent to this ordinance. It would be preserving and providing protection for, so to speak. The city does, not have any concerns about what's proposed. And, I just wanted to provide that little bit of background. Thank you.
Thank you. Can we now have the finding of fact?
Yes, one moment. I move that the finding of fact for location 1401 Harrison Street shall include all the information included in the notice of public hearing dated April 21st, 2020. 5 notices of public hearing were sent and 0 responses were received. There are no further documents. Rusty Miller, a representative of Graphic Packaging, spoke to the request to raise the height of the existing building. A footprint will not change, but will change the height from 30 feet to 80 feet. They're adding a third paper machine to double capacity, estimates additional capacity to enable 100 more years of adequate production. The new space will be in support of that machine. Staff comments: building existing is deemed non-conforming. Older structure built under earlier ordinance sans the 25-foot setback. The purpose of the setback was to provide a buffer of its use to protect other areas. Purpose of variance is to protect the machine and support its operation. Harrison functions as a private street with few owners, all governmental or business. Impact would be minimal.
Thank you. Is there a second for the motion of the finding of fact?
I'll second the motion.
Thank you. Any changes or additions to the finding of fact? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. And opposed, same sign. Nope. Finding of fact is passed. Can I now have a motion regarding the request?
One moment. I move that we, pardon me. I move that we accept the dimensional variance from Chapter 9, Section 9.3B to increase the height of an existing non-conforming building which encroaches approximately 20 feet into the required 25-foot setback from the Harrison Street right-of-way. The footprint of the building along with the Harrison Street will not be altered, and the building will not be located any closer to the front property line. However, the height will be increased from 30 to 80 feet, which increases the extent of the nonconformity.
Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
Thank you. And now we're open for board discussion of the motion. So I will be voting in favor of this motion. I think for the reasons set forth in the applicant's statement, the elements that are necessary to be met to approve a variance of this kind have been met. I think that with Mr. Eldridge's comment about the use and nature of this street, it's clear that the impact is really for the positive for the Kalamazoo community in this, and there's no negative impact on adjacent property owners, since the street really sort of functions as graphic packaging use property mainly anyway. If there is no other comments from the board, can we have a roll call vote, Mr. Eldridge?
We'll start with Ms. Doan.
Yes.
Lager.
Yes.
Vanden Hamburg.
Yes.
Skalski.
Yes.
Flaw.
Yes.
Thank you. The variance has been granted.
If I may, I'd like to, thank the board for finding a way to use, the Zoom platform, and we were able to get this done. It's many of us are all now using WebEx or Zoom or Skype, and but I want to certainly thank you very much for being able to put the technology together and make this appeal hearing successful. So thank you very much.
Thank you, and thank you for your patience. I'll now turn to our second case for the night, 2117 Benton Avenue. Madam Secretary, could you read the application into the record?
Of course. Mr. Chair, an application for variance for provisions of the zoning ordinance has been filed with the Zoning Board of Appeals by Todd DeLoof, owner of 2117 Benton Avenue, which is situated in the zone RS5, Residential Single Dwelling District. The applicant is requesting a dimensional variance from Chapter 5, Section 5.1 for a 14-foot variance from the required 25-foot rear yard setback to construct a 128 square foot, 8-foot by 16-foot covered porch on the rear of the dwelling. Please note that this request will not change the zoning classification of the property. This is a request for variance only regarding the item described above.
Thank you. Mr. DeLoof, you have 10 minutes to explain your request.
Okay, great. Yes, I would like to build a screened-in porch on the back of my house, and it's going to be within code, and I'm hoping that you'll let me do that. That's it.
We've got it looks like an estimate sheet that sort of describes what the porch will be made of.
Yes.
Could you sort of just try to visually describe what you intend for it to look like?
Yeah, it looks like the contractor, which is Pat McNeely for Versatile Construction, is going to put 4x4 post into the ground with concrete and then attach, I believe it's 2x6s, the rafters that will attach to the main rafters of the house. And then he's going to put 1/2-inch plywood, another layer of he's calling it soundproofing, and then metal on top of that, so the snow can slide off easily.
Okay.
And withstand the weight, of the snowfall that we usually have here in Kalamazoo.
So it looks like it's sort of a flat roof on your house, and we'll
Yes,
just
it's a flat
follow
roof
the
with
roof line.
Yeah, there's a slight slant to it, and he's going to make it even more of a slant so that the snow and water will run off more easily for weight. And then screens and a screen door.
Excellent. And thank you. Are there any other questions from the board?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
There, in the aerial photograph, there is evidence of a covered porch there now. And it sounds like it needs to be rebuilt, and that's part of this. So before anybody looks at the aerial and inquires about that, I thought I would help Mr. DeLoof out and just mention that. So that was built without a permit. It apparently needs to be replaced at this point. The contractor came to the city to get a permit, and that's when it was determined that this project was going to require a variance due to the position of the house on the lot.
Yes.
When
So-
was the original built?
What was built?
When was the original porch built, the one without the permit?
I believe it was there when I bought the house in 2007.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So the new porch will really just be replacing the existing porch that's
Yes, the
already
other one's
there.
coming down. It looks like it was from maybe a trailer that had a porch on it. It's aluminum with foam inside, lightweight.
Okay.
How far is the porch going to be from the rear property line again?
It is going to be probably about 9 feet. The lot itself is 80 by 50,
Okay, thank you.
and the house is 20 by 24, about the size of a 2-car garage.
So it's
a
gonna be
unique
roughly the
house.
size of the current porch then. Is that right?
Oh, the current porch is a 9 by 8.
So what's the difference between the current porch and the new porch?
The new porch will be 8 by 16.
That's right, 8 by 6. Thank you.
Any additional questions? Mr. Eldridge, shall we move on to the comments first, or does the city have any commentary on this before?
Well, I will make my comments first. I'm just letting IT know we're about ready for any messages that have come in. But just a little background on the property. The lot is non-conforming. It is 50 feet in depth and 82 feet wide. So it comes up at 4,100 square feet overall. And for that RS5 zone district, the minimum lot size is 4,500 square feet. So it is considered a substandard lot. The house that is on the property was built in 1952. It's 480 square feet. So as you can see, it is a small house on a small lot. However, the home still doesn't comply with the front setback from Benton nor the rear setback to the south. So what we're looking at here is a situation where almost any project done triggers a variance. So over the years, effort has been made to make this small house functional. It was August 14th of 2003 when a prior owner went to the Zoning Board of Appeals for a variance to build the garage that you see on the east side of the house. So that the single stall garage required a variance as it protrudes a little further back, roughly 6 feet further back than the back of the house towards the south. So a dimensional variance was granted in 2003 for the 12 by 24 garage. And now this addition of, what's looked at as a small 3-season porch also triggers the need for a dimensional variance again at this time. So it's, efforts are being made to make this a more functional home. And, given the size of the lot, there are some practical difficulties, dealing with the lot size and the existing home and its placement on the lot that make it really hard to increase the functionality of this small dwelling. Thank you.
Thanks for that.
Thank you.
And why don't we, so as far as the public comment goes, there have not been any messages received. So, Mr. Chair, if you just want to acknowledge that we don't have any. For the persons doing the finding of fact, we did receive that one email of support from the resident at 2141 Benton Avenue, which is roughly 3 properties to the west. That was really all the public feedback we received.
Okay, with that acknowledgement that there are no comments in the voicemail queue, I'd now ask for a motion for the finding of fact.
I make a Go ahead.
When I say what I'm supposed to say. I move that the finding of fact for location 217 Benton Avenue shall include all information included in the notice of public hearing, April 21st, 2020. 30 notices of public hearing were sent. 1 response was received and is part of the record. 2121 Benton Ave sent an email in support of this dimensional variance. A public hearing was held before the board and public comments were accepted. In addition to the information and documents contained in the public packet staff provided for the request, the zoning board of appeals received additional documents on the request, including none to follow. The finding of fact shall include those documents just described and also the facts and comments made during the public hearing, which are summarized as follows. Mr. DeLuve wants to build a screened-in porch. It will be code. He did get, it will be of code. Mr. DeLuve mentioned that it will be attached to the house. He has hired a contractor to do the work. Staff mentioned that the existing porch will have to be torn down. The house was, or the porch has been there since Mr. DeLuve owned the property. The porch is currently 8 by 6, or the new porch will be 8 by 16, which is larger than the existing porch. Staff made mention that the lot is substandard and the house has been there since 1956. House does not comply with setback requirements, and any owner that wants to make any addition to the property automatically occurs a need for a variance. Staff is putting efforts into making the house more functional. And that concludes the finding of fact.
Thank you. Is there a second for the finding of fact?
I'll second the motion.
And any additions or corrections? No? Hearing none.
I was just going to mention real quick, was it 1952 you said as far as the
I said 53.
53? Yeah, 52 was when the house was built.
I now make a correction. The house was built in 1952.
Good accommodation.
Thank you. And could I have a voice vote? All in favor of the motion on the finding of fact signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed, same sign. All right, we have a motion on the finding of fact. We now need a motion on the request itself.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to accept the variance for 2117 Benton Avenue, situated in Zone RS5, Residential Single Dwelling District. The dimension is from Chapter 5, Section 5.1 for a 14-foot variance from the acquired 25-foot rear yard setback to construct a 128 square foot, 8 by 16 covered porch on the rear of the dwelling.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
All right, we have a motion on the table. Discussion.
Given its substandard size and the fact that it's replacing a non-code porch anyway, I'll be in favor.
I second.
Yeah, right.
And I also echo those comments. I mean, that's my thoughts as well.
All right. Well, Mr. Eldridge, can we have a roll call vote?
We'll start with Mr. Flaw,
Yes.
Skalsky,
Yes.
Vanden Hamburg,
Yes.
Lager,
Yes,
Doan.
Yes.
the motion has been granted.
Oh, great. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much to the board.
Thank you.
Go forth and build your porch.
Thank you so much.
Enjoy.
Now let's hope we get some warm weather to enjoy it once it's built.
Well, at least you'll be able to enjoy it. It's just another place to go in the summertime. We're locked up in our homes right now.
I know it exactly.
Thank you.
Thanks
Now
again.
thank you. That concludes both of our cases for tonight. Are there any other items of business, Mr. Eldridge?
I have no other items of business. I do want to remind the board that we have our regular meeting still next Thursday, May 14th. And the agenda will be going out tomorrow morning for that. So thank you all for your patience tonight. Thank you to our viewing audience for their patience as we had some difficulty getting going tonight, but it went smoothly once we got going.
Yeah, hope I have a better connection next time. Appreciate it.
Oh,
Thank
can
you,
I have
everyone.
one more question? Do you mail me the building permit or do we have to pick it up?
Well, I will find out and send you an email.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Everything's in flux right now, but I will email you and let you know. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thanks a lot to the city for making this work remotely.
You
Well,
can next time.
Okay.
Now I adjourn the meeting.
Thank you.
You have a
Okay.
gavel?
Okay. Thank you all. We'll see you next week. And thank you, Joe, for keeping everything going in the background.
Not a problem. It was a pleasure.
All right. I will be in touch then. Good night.